what are some misconceptions about NFL pay or pro athlete pay? So it's just like people see somebody that's in the league and they're like, oh, they're making millions of dollars. Like, how's that split up? I know you got like signing bonus, you got salary, and then you got like performance bonuses. Like, how does that all work? And then most people kind of blow it all, right?
Yeah. Well, like, first of all, I think you being a business person and your audience as well, it's important to note that NFL contracts, we're binded as players, but the league really isn't, and the teams aren't. So let's say a guy signs a 3-year, $10 million deal. The first two years have guarantees in it. The last year doesn't. How many contracts in business have you seen where one side is completely liable, the other side is not? So, you know, like
Crazy.
seeing contracts and being in the business world now, I'm like, the contracts we sign in sports is wild because it's like we got to abide by it, but they don't completely. So an example is like a 3-year, $10 million deal. That might come across SportsCenter and you're like, oh, $10 million, this guy got paid. Well, the problem is it's really 2 years, 6 that's actually, you know, guaranteed. So there's $4 million that the guy may or may not receive. So what position does this player put in? If he plays really well those 2 years, they just got this guy for a bargain and they're keeping him for 4 for that next year. Mm-hmm. If he plays poorly or they don't want him anymore, they don't have to guarantee, or they're not abided by that last $4 million, and they can just cut him before year 3. So it's like either way, the player is kind of screwed in that situation because either he should be making double that because he's outperformed and they're like, hey, you signed a contract, bud. You're making 4 this year. And then all over SportsCenter, oh, this guy's holding out. And that's usually the reason. It's like I outperform my contract. And then the flip side is like, they should keep this guy. Oh, he's played okay. He's had an injury, what have you. Mm-hmm. Oh, we're just going to cut him. We don't owe him this last year. So that's the first thing. So when I see 3-year, $10 million contract, I'm like, what's the guarantees? Okay, let's say it's 2-6. So now you know that, and then half of it is cut in taxes. We're taxes W-2 earners, and there's no way to get around that. So I started out in New York. Literally, our checks were half of what they were supposed to be, and then you have agent fees, and the standard agent fee is 3% gross. So if your tax rate is 47, 48, 3% gross of that. So you can start to do the math. So a 3-year, $10 million contract can look like $3 million net in a heartbeat. Mm. And, really 2.4 to $3 million net. Now you got your moms to take care of. You just got in the league. You come from a bad area, so you want to buy moms a house. You bought yourself a house. You bought a car. You do a few things. Maybe you're partying a little too much or do that. So do this and that. So I don't think it's that like surprising that professional athletes go broke at times because of the contract structure, the taxes. And then when you think about these people aren't always super educated on finances. Like if you make that in business, you have you understand P&Ls and balance sheets. Yeah. And you're financially literate at that point. Mm-hmm. When you become wealthy from something that has nothing to do with finances at all, and you're throwing money and you come from a bad background, I'm like, these guys are 20 years old and making millions of dollars and don't understand the game fully. So I don't think it's that surprising.
Yeah, man, that checks out. I look at these like Formula One drivers too, and I'm almost like, man, like that on paper looks really, really cool, but also like the pressure. The pressure of like a Charles Leclerc or someone like winning millions of dollars, and then next season he could be taken off. You don't got a job no more.
And so if he makes millions of dollars, that has to sustain him for a long period of time, and he has 25. The pressure to make it again.
Yeah.
So
let's talk about identity shift, man, because like I think that's going to be the big thing that most people will take away from this, and then we can get into the investing side. But you're leaving this career where your entire life has been building up to this spotlight, and you finally do it. You reach the mountaintop, and you stayed at the mountaintop for 9 years, man. And like that's a good career in the league. Yeah. And then you're leaving the league. Walk us through how to overcome these identity shifts, because I went through that when I left corporate, man. I was like, yo, what do I do with my day? Like, who am I outside of that job? Because that's what we're talking about is, who am I outside of this job? Yeah. So like, how did you go through that and navigate that?
So another lesson, I think I would have struggled with it immensely if it wasn't for the storm that I went through in college that we talked about. But once I had that storm, I kind of had the perspective of football is what I do. It's not who I am. So I tried to really tether myself to like, what am I about as a human being? I'm going to work my ass off. I'm a consistent learner. I'm going to be a great networker and build relationships with people. So I tried to tie myself to things that benefited me on the football field, but also benefited me off. This is who I am. This is what I stand on. And I think these are traits and attributes that are going to allow me to succeed in no matter the realm. So I really kind of owned that, because I know like this shit could be taken away from me. It's been taken away from me before. It could be taken away from me again. I don't want to get back to that dark place. I want to make sure I'm tethered to something outside of the game. So I recommend every entrepreneur, every business person, every corporate worker, tether your identity to the skill sets you are developing, the morals that you have and what you stand on, and not the job, the job or the career. That can change. Maybe it's just to another company. Maybe it's to your own business. Maybe you made a shit ton of money and you just decide to retire and you're chilling. But you can the attributes and those intangibles, those convert over to whatever. So I think that is a pivotal piece that I learned, because I felt like I did tether my identity to the game of football for so long. And that's why that storm, it was so hard for me, because the game I loved and what I tethered my identity to was gone. And I promised myself I would never do that again. And it's a constant reminder. Like I'm even now, it's like I can't tether myself to the companies or being the athlete turned investor now. Like I have certain attributes, beliefs, and things, and that's what I'm going to tether myself to, because I can convert that over to anything.
Yeah, and that's why when people exit their companies, and like you got two different types of company. Like you build a company for cash flow, or you build a company to sell.
Yeah.
Right. And people sell companies, and I got a lot of them on this show, and almost all of them are miserable.
Yeah.
Because that was their entire identity. It's like, I built this company from scratch. I sold it for $20 million, $40 million, and you got that in your bank.
Yeah.
And that's not a contract either. That's in your bank.
Yeah. And I think that's another good reason to kind of people always say like, stick with plan A and, don't burn the boats, don't have a plan B. And I always looked at it as like, why does plan B have to be a separate thing when you might exit one day? When for me, I knew I was going to retire. It's all plan A. This is my life. So it's like, I'm in a career that I'm going to retire. So preparing and investing and learning about business and learning about real estate, that's a part of plan A. Like, I'm not going to just focus on football and then end my career and not have any clue. So, there's a level of like focus and keep the main thing, but you have to have kind of an idea and forward thinking of like, what is outside of this for me, because that time is going to come. And that notion of like, you got to be so tunnel visioned when you're in a career that is going to end. I think it actually hurts more people than it helps them, because I see guys, entrepreneurs or business people who sell their companies, corporate people who end up getting laid off, NFL athletes who end up, not making it in the NFL or making as much money, and they end up in this spot and they go through years of like chaos because their mindset was like, oh, I'm just going to focus on this. And they ignore every other aspect of their life. And for me, it was like, I have 24 hours in a day. My main priority, I'm putting everything I can into football and being the best athlete I can be. But at the end of the day, I can't do football 24 hours a day. What am I doing in my free time? For me, I was reading books. I was networking. I was, taking meetings, learning about business, listening to podcasts, figuring out how to invest, how to grow. And, other guys might be playing video games, smoking weed, partying. And not that I never did any of those things, but I kept my priorities and my free time kind of regimented in the other things that I was interested in. So I think that's kind of a nugget that I think a lot of your audience could kind of lean into.